Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the next instalment of Cisilion Live. I'm joined, as usual, by my partners in crime, Iqbal, our head of modern workplace, and Craig, our head of new business within Cisilion. I've lost track of what week we are now in lockdown. Actually, I really can't remember. This just feels like it's the longest Groundhog Day that we've ever had, and it's funny, for those of you that joined us yesterday for our webinar with Mark Parr, who's the Global Infrastructure Director at HFW, we were talking a lot about that kind of, how they were prepared for COVID, what's happened since, and what they expect to happen afterwards. So I'm not going to dive into the details too much around that, because I think we're going to post the link to the webinar. But it's really interesting to watch, to kind of see what the mindset was before COVID, as we entered COVID, and kind of how it is now. And I think really that's kind of the ethos of what we're going to cover today, is around that, things are starting to be relaxed. We're seeing countries around the world starting to test what they can open and what they can go back to. And so what we're really discussing today and asking today is, what does that world look like now? So what do we need to do to prepare for coming back into the office? And I wanted just to share some of the things that we are doing as an organisation, and some of the things that our customers are doing, and what we've seen. So it's funny. I was talking to a customer of ours yesterday, a program manager at Mercedes actually, and one of the things that they were saying was, they've been talking for weeks about getting back to normal. I can't wait till this this lockdown gets lifted, etc. And I think suddenly people have had this realization of there probably isn't a new a new normal, but I think it's there isn't. This is normal now. This world of everyone being on video calls, working to fit their life, is just kind of how we are. I think managers have become virtual managers overnight. Everyone has become part of a virtual team every night and every day, and the word virtual is just kind of the world we're in now, and I think that word will disappear very shortly. But to give that a bit more reinforcement, one of the things that I've been doing, I've spoken to about 50 of our customers over the last week and a half, just to kind of get their view, and again, we'll share the feedback of the survey anonymously after this. But I've been asking people a handful of questions, right? So loosely around, what do I think is going to happen to the workplace when the lockdowns get relaxed in more fashion? And we've seen the likes of Google and Facebook and Microsoft already announce that they don't expect a lot of their offices to reopen until potentially January next year and even beyond. But the questions that we asked, and I just wanted to touch on this before we go into a bit more of the detail, if I may, is what do you think will happen when people come back to work? So and I asked 4 questions, which I asked people to vote for. So do you think things will be the same as before? So, yes, there'll be a phased return to work, but do you think eventually you'll be back into the same mindset and the same working style that you were before COVID? Do you think you'll leverage the same real estate that you've got today, but potentially re-architect that space, so more meeting rooms to support more remote working and more remote meetings? Do you think you will keep the same office space or close office space and redistribute, or do you just think that people will work from home a lot more in the new world? And the results may be surprising, may not be, but less than 10% of 50 people that I spoke to thought that life would return to how it was post pre-COVID, and 80% of the people we spoke to think there'll be a combination of either utilising the same real estate they've got today but carving it up, or just culling workspace, getting rid of offices, closing offices, with a view that a lot more people will just be working from home. One of the large law firms I spoke to yesterday have already canned a lot of their projects for office refurbs, and served notice on their leases with a view that they expect 75% of their workforce to now work from home. So it's quite a staggering change. So I think to open up kind of to the floor really, and Iqbal, I'd quite like to get your view on this. What do we need to do to ensure that the workplace and technology and people's homes are ready to to really enable people to get back to work in this new life 2.0?
Thanks, Rob. I think there's a number of things here. I mean, we've talked at length about the types of solutions that many of our customers and organizations out there are looking to leverage. But looking at the kind of, we're all on a journey at the moment where we're now into that next phase where we know lockdown is starting to be eased. And I think some of the stats, Rob, you've given us are very interesting. And that's very much about what many users perhaps feel. They feel that this is now the new normal, and they almost expect their organizations to now adopt this way of working and to make this the current normal, the new normal. Having said that, what I'm seeing, speaking to some of our customers more recently, they have now started to put in place a strategy around the physical workspace in the office. So, as we speak, most people that I speak to, most organizations are starting to already redesign their physical workspace, ensuring that there's social distancing can be maintained when people are back in the office, layout for desks, meeting rooms, everything. It needs to be addressed, and that's something that I'm seeing customers trying to achieve. Now, physically, we know it's possible, but actually, how can we now leverage technology to ensure that social distancing can be maintained? Because the only way you're going to get people back into the office, not suggesting that we all need to be back in the office, but it will need to happen because we still need to collaborate together. We still need to meet one another. How can we give people the confidence that, it's safe to be back in the office? I know we've all talked about this, haven't we? I mean, I speak to my team and they always ask me like, okay, so how's it going to work when we're back in the office? When are we going to sit next to each other? There's all these questions that are going through everybody's minds. I think we know that we're in a time where we can work from anywhere, but we do. I do want to see you guys at some point. I don't want to be working like this forever. So there's a few things that we've already started to put in place with our customers. Number one is making it easy for people to be able to schedule desks and meeting rooms and things like that. That should be quite a seamless experience to be able to limit the amount people can come into the office at any one time. You don't want to be managing that with a rota system. It needs to be quite natural, pretty much first come, first serve, but giving people the flexibility to book a desk from home, on the way, when they get to the office, all of that should be done. So I'm actually working with one insurance firm right now, and they're looking at automating this whole process. So if an office becomes 80% full in terms of its capacity, an alert will be sent to everybody to say, you know what, guys, this office is now at full capacity. Please make other arrangements. So forward thinking, I think, is quite key around, helping people get back in. The other thing we've started to look at is sanitizing. We know that these environments need to be kept clean. It's all well and good having a cleaner come in every couple of hours, but how can we really streamline this process? And again, what we've looked at is, using sensors to be able to trigger a cleaning service. So when you check in and check out of a desk, you want cleaning services to be triggered. They can come and sanitize, and that desk is now ready for the next person. This all seems quite strange and a real, it's not something we've ever been used to, but the technology is there today, so we can make that happen. And we're seeing that we're seeing that could come a long way. And I think, beyond that, just the last thing I'll mention that I'm seeing what from an HR perspective as well is, when people do get infected, because no doubt this thing's not going to end anytime soon, is being able to track and trace. So knowing what people have come into contact with others, so that's something that, again, using technology, we're able to do that in a very secure way. So I don't know, Craig. I know you've been busy speaking to many customers as well. What are you seeing right now with people moving on to the next phase of this journey?
Brilliant, thanks, Iqbal. And I'm pretty much going to say the same thing you guys have just said, really. One thing Mark mentioned on the podcast yesterday was about panic buying, and we're seeing that tactical panic buying is absolutely reducing now, and our clients are starting to think more strategically. Rob, as you said, about about the survey that you've done and the different kinds of workers that you're going to have, and you can split that into two very much, in my opinion. What are the best tools that our agile workforce are going to be able to be office effective from home? That third network, that new network now, the work from anywhere people, and number two, as you guys have just said, the returning workforce. How do we ensure our returning workforce can work safely by enforcing social distancing in the office? And going back to number one, in terms of the tools, these are things like headsets, these are things like devices that are mobile and have really good quality cameras, or additional cameras, meeting technology at home, light portable technologies that can be with you from anywhere, work from anywhere. And in return of drivers, I mean, they say crises drive innovation, and I've never seen anything like that in our industry, right? So you've got insurance firms, as you said, Iqbal, that we're talking to, they're asking about how AI-powered sensors and cameras can help with distancing. They're talking about digital signage in the workplace that, linked to the AI tools, enables messaging to go to people to say, look, there's too many people in this area, it's unsafe, move, disperse. And that ties into the new office layouts. And there's a lot around voice technology as well. We said about activating cleaners to come and clean things up, but if you walk into a meeting room and there's no buttons to press, and you can activate a meeting the same way you'd activate your Alexa at home, hey WebEx, hey Teams, let's get this meeting started, so that cleaning is less dependent upon. So that's really cool. Another key thing that I'm seeing is around leveraging wireless. How can we get live footfall analytics, movement maps, and digital signage again to feed into that system? So we're seeing all the same things by the sounds of things, guys. And yeah, Rob, I don't know what your thoughts are about the work from anywhere, that additional network that's coming, but I'm sure everyone's keen to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. And I think, yeah, bringing this together, I think it's funny, isn't it? You talk about all the things that you need to kind of work in this world, and we've, and of course, if people are going to be working from home a lot more, which they are, let's face it, this is the world we're going to be in, then I think we're going to see organisations, having to spend and wanting to spend and redirect funds into other things. So a lot of that is going to be, the health and well-being of their employees. That's still really, really important. We're going to see more workplace assessments for people at home. A lot of organisations do this already, where they have a big working from home force, but making sure people have got the right height desks and the right chairs and those kind of things are really, really important. We're going to see a lot more of that at home. Making sure people have got the right, laptops and webcams and screens and things, so they can have the best possible experience when they're sat at a desk from home for a period of time. I think the technology is going to play a massive play in not just, and you touched on some really good points there about people that are in the office. People will want to go and see other people, right? It's a human thing. We need to react. We need to talk to people, and we will actively be, people will be encouraged to socialise and do those things within safety boundaries and all those other things. I think, yes, you're right. Technology will make a big play. Therefore, I think networks within organisations will be important. Probably less about huge amounts of bandwidth and things, but it will be about having more sensors, having more IoT, and actually making the network the living hub, if you like, of how businesses work. So you're right. The ability to know whether, how many people are going to be in the office in any one day. That won't be a surprise anymore. You'll know in the morning, because people will be registering their intent to go to the office, and the systems will be telling you. We're trialing a system at the moment for our Leatherhead office, where we'll be looking at that. People that want to come into the office will essentially use almost like a shift pattern to say, look, I'm going to come in the office today. Fine, okay, where's the desk you can sit at? Is that relevant? Social distancing. And I think right now it might, for us, it's not about investing loads of money in new furniture. It's about just not allowing people to sit next to each other. So you're going to see a lot more of those things. But I think what we're going to see is a big rise of, and this is a really great opportunity for some of the big networking vendors out there, is to really think about the home network. So, I'm fortunate enough, I live in London, I've got relatively good broadband, and most of the time I get good throughput. But like I'm sure many people do, it is very choppy. It's very choppy. I've got 2 young children. When the sun's out, they're in the garden playing water slides and things. But actually, when the weather's not, it's been raining this morning, they're sitting there, they are watching stuff, they're doing online lessons, they're watching YouTube, they're doing all sorts of other things. So there is a huge consumption of networks, and generally home networks, and and to be honest, most workers do not know how to configure quality of service and all these kind of things, because you don't need that on a home network, do you? But actually now their home network is not their home network, it's their work network. And so these things are going to become, I think, a very different, there's going to be very different sets of technologies out there to try and help those things. So yes, it's about technology. Yes, it's about the things that people use. Yes, it's about keeping social distancing. But it's also around a completely different mindset of work. And so yes, technology will glue it together. I think you're right. I think booking meetings, booking more time, the automatic use of those things, and also how managers keep track on what their teams are doing, not from a big brother perspective, but are they okay? Are they working? How are they getting on working in teams? Some people are very vocal over video, some people aren't. So it is a really interesting space, and I think we've all got to be in it together. And I think managers have to be in this together. And I think sessions like this that we're doing are hopefully really useful, because we are really trying to pull together advice and ideas of what some of our other customers are seeing. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question, Craig, but
it does massively. It does, Rob. Thanks. And we did just have a question come in from Karen, guys, and it's what vendors are best to look at. What vendors are best to look at for reopening the workplace? Now there are a load of them. Right, and we're being very cautious not to pitch particular products in these sessions, Karen. So perhaps we can chat after. But as Rob said, any top tier networking vendor from that home network point of view, cameras and devices, you're looking at the usual suspects, the Microsoft Surfaces, the Poly, the Plantronics, those kind of approaches. HP, of course, devices wise, there's a lot out there, and I think you've got to look at your own workplace before you can ascertain what the best technology is. Cisilion are obviously happy to help. That'd be my answer to that question, Iqbal. I don't know if you'd scratch that surface a little more.
Yeah, they're like you say, we're not. We're generally quite vendor agnostic. We'll try and position the right technology and vendor to support the business outcome that customer's looking to achieve. But there isn't an off-the-shelf solution per se that will slot in perfectly. It's understanding what's there today, and then we work with customers. Once we fully understand where they are, we will then try and position the right solution. But there's a bunch of other providers like Condeco, SmartWay, Team, for example, that provide that kind of office work space type of technology, and we can certainly help kind of fulfill that. Just kind of going back to Rob, you touched on obviously this now being the new way of working. We're all used to WFH, this new thing emerging around kind of working from anywhere. I read a recent article from Harvard Business Review, and they've done a full analysis around what the future of work looks like. And there's some interesting stats. And you've got some big organizations like Akamai and SAP who have already developed a working from anywhere strategy. I think they did this back in 2017, and that's very much part of being onboarded. Obviously, companies like that work in a global environment, so they don't really care where their employees are. They've got access to a large pool of talent because they've got this strategy in place, and I think that's one of the key benefits here that many don't realize. I know, Rob, you and we've spoken about. With this change for us as a business, we have access to a larger pool of talent for our business. So the way I can see how this will impact even larger organizations and those at a global level. So the companies that have had this strategy already have been benefiting. I think now there's a chance for all of us to kind of review that and see how that progresses. And another interesting stat is again, Harvard did this recently. They found that the average worker was willing to accept an 8% pay cut by by giving them that flexibility. I'm not convinced that will happen now, because now it's like, well, you know, I've no choice but to work from home. But this was done pre-COVID, and most people, you know, they want to be able to take their kids to school, take their dog for a walk at lunchtime, maybe go and stay with their family members, their parents, when that's allowed, and still continue to work. So I think that's definitely a big thing. And then the final one for me is productivity. I think we've all noticed it. Our chairman has noticed it. Since we've been working like this, we have, as a business, been more productive. We found, from a sales perspective, our customers are able to make quicker decisions. We are no longer having to wait till next month to have that face-to-face meeting. We're now getting things done in real time, and that's how businesses need to operate now. They can't, you know, we are now able to get those decisions done quicker, and we're certainly seeing the benefits of that. I mean, I don't know how you guys find it, Craig. I guess, you know, working, you know, managing a sales function, you know, from your side, do you see that tangible benefit that we as a business are seeing?
Massively, and I had a few problems earlier today just logging on, because I've got the kids on Google Classroom in the front room, and you can't put a price against spending more time with your family. You can't put a price on having more access to your friends, and like you said, walking the dog, those little things. I just want to quickly say, I wonder how popular the journalist is at the Harvard Business Review saying everyone's going to take an 8% pay cut. You almost you wouldn't want to offset your newfound freedom with a pay cut. Nevertheless, you know, if I was asked that question, you know, you'd think a lot about it. You'd think a lot about what is the cost of this new way of working, the benefits of spending more time and having more access to freedom, effectively not being chained to an office. I'm a huge fan. I'm loving it.
There's another interesting stat, actually. This study was done a few years back, but this was in China. The call center stat. So there's a Chinese travel agency. They decided that they were going to shift to a home working solution, and they've done a full analysis around, you know, people working from the office and then working from home. They found the average increase in productivity was 13%. That's because people were taking less breaks. They weren't taking sick days. But all of these things do come into play. That, you know, when you think about it, actually, pay cut's probably not the right thing, because you're going to get more out of your employees.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that 30%. I mean, it came out just before the lockdown, didn't it? That I think Microsoft have trialed the 4-day work week and said the productivity has gone up. I was skeptical, if I'm honest, on that. The feeling was that Microsoft want the world to go that way, to consume more of their technologies. But in hindsight, I think it's a conservative number. I find myself getting out of bed at 7-ish, which is a lay-in compared to the commute, cracking on with some work, catching up with the teams about 8:30, having more kind of free time in the day, like you said, walk the dog, spend some time with the kids, but ultimately working later into the evening. It's year end for us, so probably not a great measure, but I must have been twice as productive this week as I have been throughout the year. So I'm with you. Rob, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think the one thing I wanted to add to that, and your point actually there about kind of, you know, the 4-day week and these kind of things is really interesting. But I think what's happened traditionally, and I think, you know, I think the world of technology through, you know, internet provision and service and maturity is at a point now where we're now not doing what we used to do. So I think what happened before was technology came out and we almost tried to find a way to do what we did using technology, because it surely has to be better because I've spent money on it, right? And I think we're now at a point where the technology is kind of here. We've got it. We've got this stuff, you know, and I mean, there's some organisations that look at video as a brand new thing, and I think we're quite spoiled and also quite fortunate in that it's been the world we've lived and breathed for many years. And but it's true, you know. I think, you know, we have the technology that lets us work in many cases more efficiently than we do when we work face to face, right? And whether that's at a negative because we're not having quite so much, you know, one-on-one, going for coffees, those kind of things as we did before, but people are definitely communicating and collaborating better. You raised a point earlier about, you know, getting everyone on a call or getting everyone into to kind of make decisions, and I think a lot of the time that used to be around You know, who's available for a meeting? Oh, I can't come to that meeting because I'm in this office today, or I'm working at home from today. So location was a reason to not get things done. Well, now nobody is in the same place, and so that kind of approach of location independence has gone away. We're all together all the time, but also separated all the time. So we are seeing people utilising automation technologies. We are seeing organisations looking at business process stuff that used to require people to sit together and work something out because there was no other way, to putting and leveraging the tools that they've already got, to just making some things quicker and easier and faster through a process. We've been doing it. We're a small organisation. You know, some of the big healthcare organisations that we are working with are making huge strides in what they're doing around improving efficiencies and improving times, even down to just getting, you know, result surveys and surveys back from health screenings and stuff. That's being done over video now instantly, without people having to book appointments and work out, oh, hold on, can I finish work early? It's a phenomenal world, and I think we're just at the start of what this is going to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just a quick question, Rob, I guess before you wrap up. Susan says, have any of our clients gone back to the office? For me, Susan, some have ran a skeleton staff. Firstly, I assume you mean en masse. We haven't seen, me personally anyway, guys, keep me honest, I haven't seen any customers go back en masse yet. I think that's the right thing. Like Mark said yesterday, there was a lot of panic buying, a lot of knee-jerk initially, as we've covered off in previous sessions. Now it's very much about thinking strategically about how we get them back safely, as opposed to rushing everyone back. That's my position on that. Iqbal, you seeing similar?
Yeah, no, very much so. I think there's no real drive to get people back in the office because it's not impacting business, right? So let's do this properly. And that's, as I said, the last 2-3 weeks has been spent working with customers to ensure that their physical workspace is ready for when lockdown is eased off further, then people can start to get back in. So right now, I think if you're not on board, you should be considering what that physical workspace looks like, making sure that the technology is aligned to it, and so that, you know, users can seamlessly switch between working from home and the office, and make sure you're communicating that clearly to your task force, because that's absolutely key. It's going to take a while for people to feel comfortable to be able to work anywhere else other than your home. I think that's the problem. You know, even coffee shops or wherever you go, you're going to be worried about the sanitization of this. You know, I spoke to my wife yesterday, and we were thinking, you know, when are we going to go out for our next meal? And my wife's like, there's no way we're going to be going anywhere, because she's OCD anyway, and you know, worrying about the cleanliness of a restaurant is going to be difficult. So I think, you know, we posted on Instagram yesterday that our office is being sanitized, and psychologically, you know what, that had a positive impact on me. And I thought, you know what, it feels as if I can go back to the office, because I know that my organization is actively doing something to ensure my safety. So I think that, just to kind of, you know, close off from my perspective, I think that'll be quite key. So yeah, over to you, Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And look, I as always, I can't believe the time. I think we've covered some good topics. I think we could go on forever. I will just add one thing to your comment, because I have to talk about trains whenever I come on these sessions, because my two boys are obsessed with them. It's we're down the train station every morning on this kind of how you feel about things. And, you know, the train comes in, you know, the cleaning staff come out, not there's any people on the train. They clean the door buttons, they clean the handles, they clean the poles. And I was chatting to one of them actually this morning, and it was like, how have we not done this before? How have we allowed, you know, dirt and just, you know, thousands of people that touch buttons to never have? No one's ever cleaned a train button door before. I mean, it's crazy stuff. So I think the fact we're seeing these things is giving this kind of relax and this kind of better feeling. But anyway, kind of we divert. So listen, guys, thank you for the questions that we've had for these things. Next week we thought we'd have a slightly different approach. So it's our end of financial year, as Craig mentioned. So what I thought we'd do next week is give a bit of a review of our business over the last 12 months, and that's not necessarily about, you know, what we've sold and all those kind of things, but certainly the world that we entered. So on the 31st of May last year, what we thought we were moving into, we were just getting ready for our big annual kickoff event that we usually do at Sandown Racecourse. and kind of what our business plans were for the year are of course very different. You know, the first 9 months were pretty much on track of how we saw things going. The last 3 months have been as nobody could predict. So we're going to give you an overview of kind of what that means for us, how that's been, how staff morale has been, kind of the mindset, and then really what we think now, what's happened over the last few months for us, and how that's going to shape the future of our business, and how we really do think that what has happened has been a real catalyst for our growth and success moving forward. So hopefully you'll find that interesting. I think it'll be a good topic, and that's what we're going to cover. So listen, guys, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the bank holiday. I hope it's going to be sunny. Stay well, stay healthy. Travel when you need to, all those kind of things. And listen, we look forward to speaking to you all again next week. So thank you for Iqbal, thank you for Craig, and thank you for myself. Goodbye.